Thank you so much for listening in to another episode of the Kenneth Myers Show. We are here to entertain you, to educate you, and most importantly, to empower you. And we are doing that this week on episode 12 with a very special guest, my brother, Kenneth Myers Jr. So I can't wait for you guys to hear from him. As you may or may not know, the Kenneth Myers Show is a legacy of a show called The Voice of the People, a radio show that our dad started. He was on WAAW Shout 94.7 FM down in Aiken, WASC up in Spartanburg. And the motto of his show was, I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. So let's jump right on into this week's episode. So I got my brother on here. He is a first-year law student. He is, I'm going to say, serial entrepreneur. His most recent venture is his business called Imperial Towing, which is a towing company with multiple locations down in South Carolina. So if you ever need a tow, give them a... He and I both went to the same middle school, elementary school, high school. And then he went to, I don't know, was it 8 colleges?
We had a non-traditional track. So,
non-traditional, yes.
So who's counting? Right. It doesn't matter where you start at.
It's where you finish.
Yeah, no.
Right. And I think something that's also interesting about us is we're only 2 years apart. We both play sports. So the people that he plays sports with are my friends from my class. A lot of people say we have a lot in common, but we also are different in a lot of major ways. Former law enforcement. I can't get started on this man's jobs, but he's worked in a lot of different industries. We'll just say that. Last year was coaching basketball, gives back to the community, runs nonprofits. And I guess I'll stop my intro there. Kenneth, tell us a little about yourself, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. We've been doing it for a while, and I finally got an invite. That's crazy.
Oh, no. I know I've sent an invite before now.
It's possible, but I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I am a Columbia kid, a South Carolina native. I'm very proud of being from the Edgewood community, which supplies students to Watkins Nance now. Used to be just Watkins, C.A. Johnson High School, and W.A. Perry. And I graduated from W.A. Perry.
That's right.
Graduated from Ginyard Butler Middle School, which is a feeder to Barnwell High School. As most people originally meet me, they know me as Catherine's little brother. So that is me essentially, yeah.
Because for me, it's like, oh, that's Kenny's sister, you know? So, well, I want to get us started. I want to ask you on behalf of the listeners, when did you fall in love with yourself?
It was Dion. They interviewed him years ago, and they asked him about loving the game of football. And he responded and said, I cannot love something that doesn't have the capacity to love me back. And I thought very powerful. And I think in order to love yourself, you actually have to know yourself. Love yourself isn't a point in time. It is something that you grow to understand that you do. For me, understanding that I was different from a lot of my peers and embracing that and not seeing it as a negative, but seeing it as this is what makes me different. And this is what makes me unique. And in knowing that, I learned over time to love myself. And of course, your parents teach you how to love yourself. My community has loved me and has taught me how to love myself since the beginning. To answer your question, I don't know if it's a point in time. I think it's just a gradual journey. And because human beings change so much, learning to love yourself is an everyday task. It's not something that you learn at 5, because the 5-year-old version of you is way different than the 15-year-old, and the 15-year-old is going to be different than the 30-year-old. So every day, giving yourself grace to be you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just want to push you because I've had the benefit of knowing you your whole life. There was a shift, though. I don't know if it was a self-love shift, but you definitely had a shift from being in your shell and being very quiet to advocating for yourself and not letting anybody walk on you. Do you remember that shift, and what would you call it?
Having an older sibling is a shelter. I remember you, and we would go to restaurants. I would lean to you to order food, or you would just take charge and do certain things. So I had a comfort. It's like, well, Kathy gonna handle that. I ain't gotta worry about it. We good. So we had a couple different points in life where it was no Catherine. So you were in middle school and went to Africa. I had a whole summer of,
Right.
of me. And so in my existence, you had 2 years without me.
Right.
So in my existence, when those points happened of Africa, or when you went to middle school and I was still in elementary, those were pivotal growing moments for me, because
Okay.
you don't have the normal advocate or the big sibling that you had all those times. So in those small gaps, I was able to develop, I think.
Huh. Interesting. It kind of leads me to my next question. Like as we become adults, we start to learn like how we operate as our best selves. Growing up, we had strict parents and strict bedtimes, but as an adult, you start giving your own self a bedtime. So this next question is, when it comes to your self-care routine, like the things that, make Kenneth operate at his best, can you share with our listeners like just a couple items that are maybe non-negotiables for you and your self-care routine?
Like, I think everything's negotiable. I don't think
Everything spoken like a
everything.
true entrepreneur.
It has to be, because you're gonna have to be able to be fluid, and some call it formless. You have to be like water. You can shape yourself to your environment. That's a survival skill as well. So if you have, I know early on, uh, playing so many sports in middle school and high school, one thing that was a non-negotiable back then was I'm going to bed.
Okay.
And I don't care what girl wants to cake bake, as they call it, on the phone, stay up all night, fall asleep. I'm not doing that. That is
Yeah.
ridiculous, because of the ripple effect.
Right.
So fast forward to now, I've learned that, hey, I've had to adjust on that.
Okay.
Imperial Growing has taught me that, my time in
Okay.
law enforcement, that sometimes you'll have to give up for a greater good. But I try to, as I'm getting older, I had to prioritize healthy eating.
Yes.
And
I wanted to ask you this question. What is your current relationship with social media? How do you avoid falling into the vortex, but at the same time enjoying the entertainment social value of it?
when you say vortex, you mean like the rabbit hole, the black
Yes.
hole?
Where you look up and you've been on there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's still a struggle. I mean, in downtime, I just, you scroll, because social media is kind of taking the role of like a current event space. You kind of see what's going on. And it
Right.
also could be the source of a lot of inspiration. And so what I do sometimes is I have to tailor my algorithm, especially on Instagram. So they do have
Mm-hmm.
a feature where you can go in and reset your algorithm and kind of be more selective on what you choose to digest. Um, but I mean, it is a struggle to stay focused and prioritize. Um, I do think there's space for it. I wouldn't necessarily try to go cold turkey with it, but
Right.
my relationship with social media isn't a controlling one. I don't donate too much to it. I use it to find cooking, and also to interact with some of my friends that I don't talk to on a daily. Those certain groups of friends that you send reels to. That's kind of how.
Right.
And
Yes.
then lastly, it is a great way for me to stay connected to a lot of the young men that I've coached from Little League football, or from, coaching at CA Johnson. They're into social media. And so that is a good way where I connect with them.
And I think that in addition to all the things you said, it's a way to make money.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it can't be. And it's something to do. You just want to have it.
And that kind of leads into the next question. You were saying social media is a place where you can get news. And a lot of times news involves politics. I wanted to know, to what extent are you into keeping up with the news and politics, and how do you not get overwhelmed or discouraged or enraged, especially in the current climate?
I've never been a big political person.
Okay.
So,
Right.
those kind of things, I'm not necessarily discouraged, because I understand the history of America.
Right.
But, we just try to do the best we can on the day to day. That's all.
We're just trying to make it by. Well, a lot of people in our age bracket either are disengaged from the voting process or people have the perception that we are disengaged from the voting process. Would you mind sharing your thoughts on voting, your passion behind voting, your frequency of voting? What's your take?
Voting is important, especially the local level, because that is what more you can control. On the
Mm-hmm.
presidential side, that's a reach. But your local community, your city councils, all these things are very important if you're involved in your community. What are you
Right.
doing? Are you starting businesses in your community? Are you
Raising kids.
coaching? Are you raising kids? Right. What is your participation in your community? That'll determine how much you care about it. A
Right.
lot of time I didn't care anything about zoning board until I tried to start a tow company where they had all these special rules for zoning, and I'm starting to realize how inequitable some of these zoning laws are, and why. And I've lived in places that didn't have zoning, but because of those experiences of me being a business owner or me, trying to do certain things in the community, I'm able to be exposed to the importance of it. So, um, if you're in school and you're not voting for, school board members, and then something happens, you have nobody to call on. You don't know who's running. You don't know why they're in that position. This is why,
Right.
because you took a back seat. Now, is there to say that your one vote could change the tide of the election? Probably not just you, but
Right.
you should know who these people are. You should be able to go places and ask for them or recognize them when you see them in public because they are public figures. And
Right.
if you see them in public, you can engage them and ask them questions. Next time, maybe you'll run. Maybe you'll inspire someone else to run. On a local level, it is very much so important because if you don't take control of your community, somebody else will.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I love that saying, if you don't take charge of your neighborhood, someone else will. It kind of reminds me of something I think Daddy told you, or maybe he told both of us. But it's like, if you don't take charge of your destiny, if you don't take charge of your life, Daddy said he would have a plan for us. So if you don't have a plan, somebody else is going to have a
We'll
plan.
make that.
And
Absolutely.
speaking of plans, I mean, you're currently in law school. You run at least, 2 or 3 different businesses that I know of. You have your master's degree, you have your bachelor's degree. You've moved, and succeeded in different cities. Could you kind of give the listeners like just a little taste into how does Kenneth sit down and make something happen? Like, do you just think of it? Do you just up and go? Do you set New Year's resolutions? Is it on your birthday? Like, how do you set goals and how do you make these things happen?
I've never been like a detailed planner. I'm not gonna. I never been the type to just be super organized and I just know my goal is because even coming out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
Okay.
just like you said, Daddy had a plan. He said, "You gonna go to nursing school?
To
You can get your
school?
go to, yeah, you can go to Millis Tech first
Mm-hmm.
and do this. Get your 2 year, and then transfer to Carolina or a large institution while you working. This whole long plan, but it wasn't my plan. What's more important than a plan is the momentum you have. So if you have an idea, pull that trigger, right?
Okay.
Figure it out. Just get the ball rolling because if you're thinking about it and you want to do it, somebody else is probably thinking of it too, and they're going to pull the trigger. And it's usually the first that makes it and not necessarily the most planned. Everyone, you could go to a bank with a business plan all you want to. It's all projection. There's so
Right.
many things that can go wrong. But the person who actually took the leap of faith, opened that business or went to school, or took that LSAT, whatever you had to do, that's the person that's typically more successful. And the world belongs to those who are assertive. And for me, if I have an idea, it usually wakes me up or I think about it at night. I'll run a few scenarios in my head and then I'm like, well, let me try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll try something else. I'll try later or I won't try again. That's it. And that
Okay.
I just lost the fear of failure a long time ago.
Mm.
And I don't feel like I can fail. Like I can try stuff, I can lose some money, I can get in a bad deal. But like you said, everything's negotiable. So even in a bad deal, I feel
I
like
didn't say that.
I
You said that.
what? No, I did say that. Yeah, I said,
Yeah, you said
like I
like you
said, everything.
said everything. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, like you called out that I said everything's negotiable because it truly is as long as you talk to the right person. If it's not negotiable, you talk to the wrong person. They ain't got no power. I think people sometimes get too locked down, right? And the answer of no, that first no, I mean, depending on what category we're talking about, no does mean no. Just don't get me twisted. No means no. No means no. But but in other areas, like, for example, at the DMV, I have a lot of respect for the members of the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles and every motor vehicle department, but they will tell you no after waiting 3 hours. I have been told no so many times at the window.
Right.
And every time I fight for my rights, and I usually get what I need done.
Well, I don't know if I ever told you, but my first job was at Palmetto Dental Services, and Dr. Rutherford would always tell me, Catherine, never accept a low class no. And I thought that just meant don't accept no from somebody who's low class. But as I got older, I understood that if someone was going to tell me no, like you said, it's not just going to be no by itself because I said so at a DMV window by a person that doesn't have any decision-making authority, negotiating power, hiring or firing authority. So as I got older, I took that to heart. And so if I'm going to take a no, it ain't going to be a low class no. It's going to be because I tried. I fought my way up to the top. I was on hold for 5 hours like Mama used to be.
Yeah, you got to fight for your right. And then you have to understand that most people are not that qualified or very competent in their positions. And so we should not treat them as if they are. A lot of times I've done research and I get to the window or wherever I'm at and I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Dumber people will convince you that you don't know what you're talking about. The majority of our population in this world and in America is not very bright.
I was holding my breath. Okay.
Anytime, not right. And the majority will usually steer you in the wrong direction. So I remember back in the day, they'd be like, oh man, what's everybody doing tonight? Where everybody going to be at? Okay, let's find out where they're going to be at so that I don't go. Right? Because usually it's not going to be a good time. If you can lean opposite and find comfort in that lane, oh man, you will be light years ahead of the rest of the world, in my opinion.
Well, I feel like I found my zen or my happiness or my peace in this like delicate balance between being anti, the bandwagon, but also recognizing what I like. And sometimes what I like is the same thing the bandwagon likes. But sometimes what I like is the opposite. Sometimes it's somewhere in the middle. And I think that's the challenge. Which leads me to our final question. Listeners, I know y'all ain't ready to go. Y'all been hanging with me for 12 episodes. Or if this is your first episode, thank you for listening in. But our guest is in his very first year of law school. And we're going to conclude with this. We got 2 more questions to go. So my next to last question is, when you're experiencing, you talked earlier about failure or self-doubt or fear. I was wondering if you could share with the listeners some pointers on what you do, what you say, or what you practice to empower yourself in those moments.
I would love to answer this question, but I haven't lost in so long. I mean, shoot.
I can't with you.
I can't relate.
I can't with you.
I'm just a kid from C.A. Johnson. I went to one of the worst performing schools in the state, K through 12. Everyone says that we're not good enough. So, sometimes I hear that, but then I hear it and I kind of smile because I was like, oh, you don't know nothing.
Right.
Because
you don't know there.
I've been tested already. You know that, right? And we ain't never scared. And I love a little competition. I love a little competition because it brings the best out of you, and it keeps things interesting. If I was the smartest person in the room, that wouldn't be any fun.
In this same vein, you had talked about getting that momentum. What do you do when you're kind of feeling stale or you feeling stuck? What practices or what do you do or what do you say? What do you watch? What do you listen to? Who do you talk to when you need some momentum?
So Maya Angelou gave a commencement speech. What Maya Angelou said, which kind of maybe sit back and digest it. in times where I don't have momentum, she mentioned a concept of taking everybody with you. And so if I don't, and when she said that, she was talking about all the people in your life that you run into, that you learn from, that you admire. Whenever you go into a room, people will feel an aura about you. And they're like, oh, what is that? That's not just you.
Right.
That is, your mom, your dad, your uncles, your best friends, someone that you just admire. But you pick up on a lot of stuff growing up. So when I lose momentum, I just kind of lean into the shoulders that I stand on. And it's like you're not here by accident. You're not existing by mistake. And you have gone through a lot in your time here. People have poured into you.
Right.
So you have all these things in your toolbox. Can you reach down and remember those and pieces of them that could then push you forward and get that ball rolling again? So for me, I think that's truly why people keep pictures around. Right. So I was thinking the other day about our Aunt Gerald. She was such a, just thinking about, she was such a powerful figure.
Yes.
And the way she talked, and someone told me the other day that I spoke well in public. But I think when I speak, I'm pulling and I'm bringing people with me. I bring in Daddy, I bring you, I bring Mommy, I bring Aunt Gerald, all the people that I know that are like very good talkers. I think all of that compounds and comes out in some form or fashion. And so
Right.
if you can always stay grounded in the fact of who you are, who made you, and who developed you, those people never go away. They're always there. And so you just got to lean into that and embrace it. So for me, I'm like a hybrid of a lot of different people
Right.
that makes me. And so because I have that, it's like momentum can be generated like that. I just got to remember pretty much who the F I am. So a lot of times, and I've told that to my friends, anytime you get down and you feeling like these feelings of depression or inadequacy, you got to remember who the F you are, right? Let's take a moment to realize that, and that is foundational. So Yo Gotti said, back to the basics. You got to go back to the basics and remember at the core what got you here, how you got here, and that story in and of itself is sufficient to kind of give you a jump start. And so that's what I use. And for that, as long as you never kind of lose yourself, as that we talked about earlier, to love yourself is to know yourself. And if you know yourself, you knew everybody who loved you to get to where you got to go. Now, some people will say nobody loved me, but you can still pick up on people. Even a bad manager sticks with you.
Right.
So all the good, all the bad, we truly stand on the shoulders of giants. And so when someone says, "Oh, you speak so well," I was like, "Look, I can't take no credit for that.
Right.
That is everyone else that has ever gave a speech in front of me, talked, even Roosevelt. I mean, I was so impressed with the late Roosevelt Dunlap, my good friend,
Yeah.
when he spoke at a health science conference. I was like, yo, who? Like, Roosevelt he had a very humble beginning, and he wasn't exposed to things I was exposed. It was like he had something else in him that was, and so for that, when I get up and speak or someone asks me in the moment, "Hey, Ken, you got something to say?" I was like, "What would Roosevelt do?"
Right.
He'll rock the mic. So although I'm not
Right.
as good as maybe you, Daddy Roosevelt, I still try to aspire,
Yes.
but just having that deeply rooted feeling of connectedness to all the people who taught you is, I think, so important.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you talking on and on because I was over here getting so emotional. I probably couldn't have talked a second sooner.
You're emotional.
I was getting emotional like that movie Mufasa, when they talked about whenever somebody passed away, they would say he lives in you now or she lives in you now. And so when you said,
Yeah.
we carry those, I started thinking about Daddy. I got a picture of him here, and it made me want to say,
Yeah.
I wish Daddy could see you in law school. And it made me want to say, I wish Daddy was here. And so, it made me tear up. But then I also said to myself, Daddy is here because Daddy is here in us.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
whew,
And things set you in motion too now. Things set you in motion. So although Daddy's not here to see us do well, he set all this in motion. Right?
yeah,
He developed us. He made sure that he got us. He coached us. But also, Had these things not happened to Daddy, I would not be here.
Right.
Right? This whole litigation thing that we got going on is a big factor in me here today.
Being in law school.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this publicly. Why was Daddy so anti-middle class values?
I think I get it because there's a distinction on how middle class economics work too. And as you know, Daddy had his bachelor's degree in economics. So the spending habits of a middle class person is almost one that is faking it like they got it. And we don't have to pretend to be something that we're not. I'm not saying that all middle class people are like that. I think it may have also been disdain for a class that you had never been truly accepted into. So just like most middle class people dislike the upper class, it's something that we sometimes feel like is unattainable. And so because of that, it's like, oh, we're not the same. We can't relate, but he went and married a middle class woman. So,
twice, 3 times.
I don't know. And also, you got to be careful with Daddy because he'll say something. He'll fire for effect. That's not necessarily what he believes. But he's just going to say something crazy. That's it. So,
it is. And I just wanted to ask you if you remember, for the sake of the listeners, you were giving a speech and you made a comment about why you believed Daddy advocated so hard for education and for school-age children. Do you remember what you said on that point?
I feel like he was advocating for him.
Right.
And the little boy in him. And that is another thing about being grounded. So the people that you take with you are not just other people. You're taking with you the responsibility to hold true to the promises that you made to the little girl or little boy inside of you a long time ago. So at any point, you're like, why am I doing this? Remember those feelings. Remember the aspirations and dreams that little person had that felt like the world is just an open book to just be explored. And I think when we get older and responsibilities hit us, we forget that. Take that time and take a step away from social media, have that quiet time to remember the feelings that you had. And you can do this in a bunch of different ways. I like to listen to music that was played during that time. So I remember you would always have the boombox in your room, or you had the clock radio, and the sun started going down. I could walk by your room and I can hear certain songs. So like there's certain Erykah Badu songs that remind me of.
Yes.
Yeah. They remind me of a time, and if I can remember the time, I can remember the feeling.
Yeah.
Smells do the same thing, and it's like, man, what was I doing back then? What did I care about? What was my dreams? And usually those can help you connect. And it's like, yeah. And then you can start to measure, would the person I am now, would the younger one be proud of them if they knew what I was doing, or knew what I had done, or knew what I had been through? So carrying things with you is not just other people, it is yourself. And that is usually the person that you want to make proud, is that little boy and little girl inside you. And I think that's what Daddy had always done, because I don't think he never truly healed from the trauma that he had as a child. Right. And so his way of healing was to undo for others what couldn't be undone for him.
Right.
And I think he did a pretty good job of it. I mean, that was his mission. And I think he was, he did a good job of fulfilling it.
I'm going to close us out and let you leave us with the last word. I want to thank everybody who's been able to listen in to episode 12. Thank you for rocking with me. Good morning, good night, whatever time it is for you. This has been another episode of the Cat Myers Show. And as my dad would say, I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. We're going to end with the words of Kenneth Jr. And I wanted to see if you could give our listeners just a few tips, some parting words on how they can live their best life.
It would be to always remain honest and truthful to yourself. No matter the situation, be relentless in all your pursuits. I was inspired. Just get busy living. Your time here is not guaranteed. You probably don't have as much time as you think you have. So maximize and sow good seeds. And one day you'll see them, or somebody else will, but somebody will reap that harvest for you.
Yay! Thank you, Kenneth, for blessing the mic and for blessing the Cat Myers show.
Thanks for having me.